Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Chaitanyam Sarvagam Sarvam Sarvabhuta Guhashayam Yat Sarva Vishayatitam Tasmai Sarva Vide Namaha. Sangato Vasmi Bhutanam Karanam Tathaiva Cha Yastam Vanyatamo Vasmi Ko Vasmi Ti Vicharayet Yastam Naham Samastam Va Bhutamindriyameva Va Niyatvat Karanatvat Cha Jnatanyosmad Ghatadivate Atmagnirindhana Buddhi Avidya Kama Karma Bhihi Dipita Prajvalatyesha Dvarai Shrotra Divisada. Yasmadev Atma Shuddha Swabhavapi. This Madhuriman Atma is Shuddha Swabhava, of the nature of purity, untouched, unaffected, untainted by any impurity. Upadi Sambandata Upasambandat Anyatha Pratiyate. This is the whole problem here, that even though I am Shuddha, you are pure, you are free, and still Anyatha Pratipadyate. I find myself to be quite contrary to what I truly am. Upadi Sambandhat. Because Sambandha or identification Upadi, I see myself as quite contrary to what I am. Tasmat Atmanam Brahmatvena Pratipattum. Therefore, for knowing the self as Brahman that I am, Padartha Vivekam Kuryat. May know Padartha, may know Anatma is Anatma, and recognize Atma is Atma. Sanghato Vasmi Bhutanam. Am I the aggregate of all the five elements, which is the gross body? Karananam tasaiva cha, or am I the aggregate of all the organs, sense organs of perception, action, etc.? Vyastam va, am I one of them? Anyatamo va, or different from them? Ko asmi vicharet, who am I? In this manner, one should deliberate upon the nature of the self. Then padartha viveka. So gniyatvat, karanatvat cha, jnata anyah. That I am jnata, I am the knower. Anyah. Gnayat anyah. The jnata is anyah, different from gnaya, the known. Ghatadivat, just as ghata, etc. are known, I am different from them. So applying that simple rule of drishya viveka, separating the drik, the seer from the seen, the knower from the known, vyastam naham, I cannot be an individual element, individual sense organ, samastam va, nor can I be the aggregate of them all. So vyastam bhutam naham, samastam bhutam naham, gniyatvad, because that bhuta, individual or the aggregate are gneya, are known to me like a part. Karanatvacha, indriyam, sense organs of perception, action, the manaha, buddhi, all of these are karanatvat. Therefore, neither am I a given sense organ, nor am I the aggregate of all the sense organs, mind, etc. or prana. Anyo anya. In this manner, drashtu dushya anvaya vyatireka alochanena viveka karya. It's a simple viveka of drashta who is separate from drashya. So this is one thing, druk-drishya viveka is one method that is employed in the Vedanta. Sakshi-sakshya viveka is another one. The witness and what is witnessed. Avasthatra viveka dvara, that is known, very well known as the avasthatra viveka, separating the self from the three avasthas, or the three states of mind, the three states of consciousness, so called. Tat sakshina turiyasya adhinga prakaramaha. And that is how the method of knowing the sakshi, that is independent of these three states and their witness. So waking, dream, deep sleep, these states are described one after the other, and then turiya. So a metaphor is given here to describe the waking state. Atma agnehe indhana buddhihi avidya kama karma vidipita. Buddhihi avidya kama karma vidipita. Indhana, the buddhi, the intellect of the mind, that's in place of the fuel. Indhana it's called. Idyate prakashyate anayayate indhana, that's how it is explained. So that which brings to manifestation Atma, like indhanam or the fuel, brings to manifestation the fire which is already there is unmanifested. So Atma is there as existence, as awareness. But then vyavhara yogya kriyate, the Atma, the consciousness, is made to be a participant in the vyavhara or this transaction. Atma is as though made a participant. What's the vyavhara? The vyavhara taking place through the organs of perception, through the mind. In this case, the organ of perception, seeing, hearing, talking, walking. So this buddhi makes the Atma seer, hearer, walker, talker. In that way, the fire which is there in the wood also becomes evident as flame, and this is what the fuel does. So buddhi also Atma Chaitanya se Vishesha Karataya Abhyakti Karana Bhuta. So buddhi also becomes the Karana Bhuta, the nimittam, the cause for Vishesh Akartaya Abhyakti. Atma becomes manifest as a seer, hearer, toucher, taster, even walker, talker, thinker. This is what buddhi does. So how does the fuel bring to light the fire which is inherently there? By blowing the wind, so lighting up the fuel and blowing the wind. Avidya kama karma vihi dipita uttejita. Not that the wind creates fire, the fire is created and the wind, so uttejita. So because of the wind then, the fire becomes more and more evident, more and more shining, more and more brilliant, and the flames emerge out. So that is what the breeze does, or by blowing the air does that. What's the air here? Avidya, kama, karma. Karma is the air. So Chaitanya adhyastata Chaitanya gastata prakashmana jayate. So this karma, vayu, karma, brings to light, brings to evidence what is already there. And that's how the karma prompts the buddhi to go out through an organ of perception such as the eyes. Gavakshebhya nisrita dirgha prabhanyayana. Like a ray of sun that stretches out far from a hole or aperture in the wall. So from apertures such as eyes, the buddhi, the ray of the buddhi, reaches out long to where the sense object is. And that's how the buddhi sada prajvalati esha iti yojana. So the buddhi constantly shines. So with different vrittis like ghatakara, patakara, mathakara. So the Tikakara said that the purpose of describing the experience in the waking state, indriyehi arthopalabdhi jagaritam. Simple definition is, waking is called the arthopalabdhi, perception of the sense objects through sense organs is called waking state. So during the waking state, we constantly experience the perception of the different sense objects, shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. And the buddhi constantly does that because the karma prompts the buddhi to reach out through the different apertures of organs of perception and contact the corresponding objects, and a stream of flame like ghatakara, patakara is a flame. So this experience of the waking is imagined to be like a homa where oblation is offered, where the fire is kindled, where the flames are there. So when you think in this manner, the teacher himself will say, you remain free from all blemishes that may happen during the experience of the waking state. Now continuing with the verse 20, evam vida buddhyavastha jagaranam. So this state of buddhi is called jagaranam. Evam vida buddhyavastha. Avastha, the state of buddhi, the state of mind is called waking. Means mind that is awake, mind that is dreaming, mind that is sleeping. And Atma presides over all these experiences by its very presence and illumining them. Tasyam Atma. So sthula shabdan anubhavate ityartha. In waking state, the sthula padarthan anubhavati, or padarthan padartha bhug bhavati. Sthula padartha bhug bhavati. That's how the waking state is explained in the Mandukya. Bahishprajna. So, the Atma is Bahishprajna. Sthula bhug, the experience of the sthula, the gross objects, whose prajna, the consciousness, is reaching out. Ekonavimsati mukha saptangah ekonavimsati mukha sthula bhug vaishvanadha prathama padah. So jagari sthana bahishprajna. So isko vaishvanar or vishva, that's a vika is called. Whose prajna, or the consciousness, is emerging out as though. So buddhi emerges out, context, sense organs, and an experience called waking. Tasyam atma sthula padartha bhug bhavati. Waking state, the self as though. So atma bhug, this state, atma self becomes the experiencer of the gross objects. That's called the waking state. And so that is explained in the verse 22. Dakshinakshi pradhaneshu yada buddhir vicheshtate vishayer havisha deepta ya atma agni sthula bhuktada. So Dakshinakshi mukhe vishva manasyantastu taijasah. That's how the Mandukya Upanishad, the Karika says, Dakshinakshi mukhe vishva. Vishva, the waker. So waker is located in right eye. Manasyantastu taijasah. The dreamer has its seat in the mind. And Akashe Hrudi Prajna Syat. Prajna is in the space within the heart. Even Tridha Vyavastita, in this manner, Tridha Atma obtains in three locations. As though Atma obtains in the right eye in the waking, in the mind in the dream, and in the space of the heart in the deep sleep state. So therefore, same thing is stated here. So Dakshinakshi pradhaneshu. So where the body in which the right eye is pradhanam or enjoys the primary place, the prime place. So why do you call the right eye as the prime place for the manifestation of Atma during waking state? Dakshinasya angasya purusha sheshthatva prasiddehe. Looks like the right limb, right side is considered superior than left side. And right eye is superior to the left, meaning that usually our focus is on the right side and right eye of the two eyes also. If one is to sacrifice an eye, you would prefer to sacrifice left eye and retain the right eye. So there is love for the right and right eye. So right eye represents all the organs of perception. So Atma is extremities of this body. And all the sense of perception are located in extremities. That is where the Atma resides during the waking state. Meaning, identify the right eye. Identify the right eye stands for all the organs of perception. Dakshinakshi pradhaneshu. Dakshinakshi pradhanam mukhyam yesham indriyanam. Teshu dakshinakshi pradhaneshu indriyeshu. Meaning that in waking state the Atma resides or functions in all the sense organs, mainly of perception, of which the right eye has a prime place in this sense organ. Yada buddhi vicheshtade. When the buddhi vicheshtade vyaparavati bhavati. When the buddhi becomes functional through the organs of perception. So that is called the waking state. Buddhi is woken up and now identifies with the sense organs of perception. So Atma identifies with Buddhi or the mind, and Buddhi identifies with the organs of perception. So you can say Atma is identified with the organs of perception in the waking state. So Atma sees and hears and thinks, etc. Although primarily Buddhi sees and hears and touches. Since Buddhi is achetana, unconscious, therefore you can't expect Buddhi to see the Buddhi enjoying the reflection of the Atma, Chidabhasa, becomes enlivened, and that's how you can say Buddhi experiences or Atma experiences through Buddhi. Because experience cannot take place unless there is union of both Atma and Anatma. Buddhi vyaparvati buddhi chestate vishayehi havisha deepta havisthaneyahi vishayehi deepta. The Buddhi is shining, is made to shine. Buddhi is made to be inflamed like flames. So every perception like a flame of the Buddhi. Seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, each one is like a different flame. This Buddhi is thus illumined, kindled, like by, of course, avidya kama karma. Havisthaneyahi vishayehi deepta. And Buddhi takes the form of a corresponding object. And so Buddhi with the form of the object is like a flame which illumines the object. Visham vyapya tadakarana deepyamana sati. The Buddhi pervades or takes the form of the corresponding object and shines as the vritti of that object like ghatakara, like shabdakara, sparshakara. But then Atma is always there with Buddhi. So Atma also as though goes out with Buddhi, contacts the objects, takes the form of the objects, and that's how that Atma Agni Sthulabhuk, that time Atma, the fire of the Atma becomes the experiencer of the Shabda Sparsha, different gross objects. Sthula Vishayanam Bhokta Jagarti Uchyade. So it's called Sthula Bhuk. So Sthulanam Bhokta Sthula Bhuk becomes the experiencer of the gross objects. So Atma becomes, its Atma is called the Vaker, understand? Atma is called Vishwa or Vaker because Atma supposedly experiences the sense objects of perception in the waking state through the agents of Buddhi as well as sense organs. So sense organs must be functional, the Buddhi must be functional, and of course Buddhi receives the reflection of Atma and becomes enlivened. That's how the experience takes place with the cooperation of all these three and four. Atma, Buddhi, organ of perception and the corresponding sense object. All of these then cooperative work, and thus the perception, this is the Chakshushi Vritti, Shravani Vritti, the Ghatakara Vritti takes place. Rupa Kandirupanam Spashtayate. This Rupa, the metaphor or imagery is clarified in the next verse. Huyante tohavim shiti Rupadigrahane smaran Ragadvesha atmagnau Jagraddosairna lipyate. So reason why this waking experience is described as a homa, where The sense organs create the form of flame of the buddhi of the nature of the sense, sense object. And this Atma becomes experiencer of the sense objects. Where Atma is compared to the fire. Buddhi is the fuel in which there is potential of that fire. Karma is like the breeze of the wind which is blown, and that's how the flame, emerges. And that flame is the flame of the perception of the sense object. So, Rupadi Grahane. So, if the aspirant is awareful during the waking state, and whenever any perception takes place, Rupadi Grahane, like the Grahanam, the perception of Rupa, the form or color. So, eyes are the representative of all the organs of perception. At that time, Ragadveshahasan. If one is objective, one is mindful and paying attention to what is happening when the perception takes place, and one can be mindful only when the mind is free from ragadvesha. The Buddhists are very famous, the Tibetan Buddhists, for the mindful exercise. And they really did the prachar around the world, and very impressively. Mindful meditation. Meaning remaining in the present, remaining where you are, where the body is, their sense organs are, that the mind is, like the dance, in which where the hand is, there the sight is, there the mind is. So this is mindfulness. This is how Bharatanatyam or any dance is described. The whole personality is integrated in one place. So also during waking state, one is alert when the mind is not distracted, and that happens when the mind is not affected by ragadvesha. The reason why mindfulness is not, reason why I am not where my body is, I am not where the activity is taking place, because my mind is, elsewhere. Anyatra manaha bhuvam na shrausam, anyatra bhavam na drashtam. I am sorry. Anyatra manaha, I was distracted, my mind was elsewhere. I did not hear what was happening here, did not see what was there. So when that is not there, then the mind is where the sense organs are, where the body is, where the experience is. So that's what the condition aragadvesha. Huente to hamshiti rupadi grahane smaran aragadvesh shobhana ashobhana adhyasena ragadvesh akurvan. So usually the adhyasa or superimposition takes place habitually. Shobhanadhyasa, ashobhanadhyasa. Judging some object as ramaniya, as pleasant, some other object as aramaniya, as unpleasant. This is the nature of the mind. To superimpose ideas upon whatever it encounters. It's an object, person, situation, anything, it has an opinion. It is nature of the intellect to have an opinion. So whenever I come in contact with anything, first is opinion. Agreeable, disagreeable, favorable, unfavorable, and then it responds. So it is the nature of the mind thus to judge what it comes across, and judges either as favorable or unfavorable, and then responds with raga or dvesha. Not to do that. That would be mindfulness when the mind does not project. The mind is objective and sees what is without projecting any kind of the values. Shobhanadhyasa, ashobhanadhyasa. That is desirable, undesirable, likable, unlikable. no such, then only you can be mindful. So this is a big thing. Mindfulness means the mind does not project. It is the nature of mind to project. And that is how the superimpose. The value which is not there is superimposed. The pleasure which is not there, pain which is not there, mind keeps superimposing because of its own complexes. To keep away from there, then you are in the present, mindful. So shobhana, ashobhana, adhyasana, ragadveshau, akurvan. I myself create raga by superimposing shobhanatvam. I create dvesha in my mind, superimposing the ashobhanatvam, akurvan. Then only you can see what's happening. Havim shim imani atmago huyante te atmatma huyante. Imani hamshi atmagno huyante. This havimshi, these oblations are being offered to the fire of Atma. So when the sight takes place and the flame, buddhi assumes the flame of the chakshushi vritti, then you can say the oblation is taking place in the fire of Atma. It is smarana. Then only the mind has a leisure to remember or to think of what is happening. This metaphor also becomes helpful when the mind has a leisure to appreciate what is happening. And appreciation, method of appreciation is suggested here. This smaran, it is dhyan. So what is taking place is seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling in the mind. The buddhi remembers, hey, this is the homa taking place, and then havimshi, the oblations are being offered to fire of Atma. So this will be called mindful meditation. Buddhists won't, but then you can do this meditation. This is called meditation along with mind, just not mindfulness, but then the mind is given a proper occupation here. In the Vedic tradition, we don't want shunya, we don't want the thoughtless mind. You may, but what we want is a mind with desirable thoughts rather than thoughtless mind. Vedic times, yajna was the most revered process, which was a way of worshipping. Therefore, this is compared to yajna. Anything that is, if you want to glorify something, compare that to yajna. Jagrad doshahi vishopalabdhi nibandhanahi punya punyalakshya naripyate. Otherwise, some dosha happens. You see something that is impure and then you incur papa. See something that is pure, get punya. So, punya lakshanahi doshe vishaya upalabdhi nibandhanahi. The vishaya upalabdhi means perception. The perception of the sense objects create a dosha or guna. It's all tradition that you see something which is bad and you incur papa, and see something like Ganga or then you get punya. But without superimposing this ragadveshas, in that case our mind remains free from the effect of papa punya. Na samslishyate, na lipyate, the mind remains untainted. Brahmanyadhaya karmani sangam tyaktva karotya lipyate na sapapena padma patra vivambasa. Lord Krishna said, like a lotus leaf, a lotus petal. It remains free from being wetted by the water. That's how the waking state is described. And then the dream state, manasyantassu taijasa. The dreamer is called taijasa. The waker is called Vishwa. Dreamer is called taijasa, manasyantaha. Taijasa is said to be in the mind during the dream state. So swapnavastha is described next in the verse 24. मानसे तु गृहे व्यक्तः So vidya karma vasana. Pashyam stejasa atmoktah. Swayam jyotih prakashita. The footnote says that the alternate reading manasetu grihe vyakta swavidya karma vasanaha pashyam tais atmoktah swayam jyotih prakashitaha. That's the alternate reading. So manasetu grihe, in the gruha, in the home of the mind. So mind is the dwelling place for the Atma for in doing the dream state. So Atma dwells in the mind. Vyaktaha sa avidya kama karmasanam pashyandu. What does he see? He does not see sense object. He sees avidya karmasanam pashyan. When he sees the vasana, result of the avidya kama karma, then that is what it is, not the gross objects, sense objects, the objects created by the vasanas. Taijasa Atma, then Atma is called Taijasa. Swayam Jyoti, there Atma is Swayam Jyoti, Prakashita, Prakashaka, he illumines, is illuminated. So Tika says, Manasetu Gruhe Vyakta. The Manasam mind is called the home of the dwelling place. Manah Parinama Upadihi Manasam Gruham. What is Manah Parinama Upadihi? The Upadi which is a modification of mind in the dream state. Manasam Gruham. So that mind is like a dwelling place. So Tatra Vyakta Atma, identified with the mind. So in each stage the Atma becomes identified with the mind. Bahishprajna Jagristhana, Bahishprajna, when the mind is reaching out, Atma also identified and goes out. When the mind is now only seeing the internal objects, that's what the Atma does. So dwelling in the house of the mind, Saha, what is meant by Atma dwelling in the mind? Satatra abhivyaktaha. So that is where the Atma becomes manifest in the dream state in the mind. Meaning that now the consciousness is withdrawn from the sense organs of perception. It is withdrawn from the objects of perception, the gross objects, withdrawn from the organs of perception, now confined the mind. Just slowly the withdrawal takes place from waking to the dream to deep sleep. So now the Atma is as though withdrawn himself to the mind and is dwelling in the mind. Earlier he was dwelling in the organs of perception, like the eyes, ears, and now dwelling in the mind. Avidya karavasanam pashyan. What the Atma sees or experiences is the vasana, result of avidya karma. Avidya prayukta karma udbuddham vasana avidya karavasana iti uchyate udbuddha. So avidya karavasana, that compoundly explains samasa by the Tikakara. Avidya prayukta karma. The karma that is the result of or prompted by avidya. Avidya is responsible for the kamana and kama is responsible for karma. That's how karma is the product of ignorance, where Atma assumes itself to be karta and performs the karma. So all those karmas performed in the past have remained in the mind in the form of impressions called vasanas. In a dream state, it is given vasana that takes the form of the dream world. But which vasana will take the form of the world or sense objects in the dream? Says Udbuddham, awakened or aroused. So vasanas which are potentially there like sleeping, they are aroused by the karma, and that vasana becomes manifest and results in the form of the waking world, waking objects. So that vasana is avidya karavasana iti uchyate. Avidya prayukta karma udbuddha. The karma which is result of avidya. That karma awakens the vasana. And that's how the vasana becomes awakened and takes the form of the sense objects. And that's what the Atma, remaining the mind, experiences. Tam vishayakaram pashyan. So vasana takes the akara of the vishaya. In a dream, there are no tangible gross objects. The objects are nothing but the transformation of vasanas or impressions that were stored in the mind due to the karma performed in the past. Taijasa iti ukto vidyadbhi. So that dream is called Taijasa vidvadbhi. Taijasa Atma Taijasa ukta. Atma is said to Taijasa by whom? Vidvadbhi, by the wise people or by the learned people. So what Taijasa explained, Tejasi vasanamaye vishay abhivyaktaha iti vyutpatte Teijasaha. Gives, their own vyutpatti. Tejasi abhivyaktaha Teijasaha. So Tejasi, so vasana is here described as light. Because vasana, that the objects in the dream do not really have any tangibility. They are nothing but the states of mind, and that mind glows in the reflected consciousness. So the mind is glowing, shining in the dream state, and therefore the one who experiences that is called a dreamer, that is a Taijasa, the modification of light. So Tejas Abhivyaktaha, Atma is called Tejasa because his Abhivyaktaha manifests in Tejas. What is the Tejas here? The mind. Vasana me Vishaya. In the dream state, the Vishayas are nothing but modification of Vasana. That is where the Atma becomes manifest, and that is called Tejasa. So that gives his own Vyutpatti. Otherwise, the whole dream world is Tejasa only, and therefore the experiencer of that is called Tejasa. Atma himself is Tejasa. At that time, Atma himself also is nothing but the nature of illumination of the mind. Tatra bhasamana karma sukha dukkhadina manumatratvad. So the karma sukha dukkhadina manumatratvad, that is where the bhasamana, the karma, sukha dukkha, all of that which appear in the dream are nothing but the manomatratva, modification of mind, nothing else. So that mind itself sees its own glory, as the Prashnopanishad says. Tasya cha dushyatvenaiva tada avasthanat. So all these sukha dukkha that the dreamer experiences, Manomatra are nothing but the modification of mind. Mind alone appearing as sukha, dukkha, the object sukha, dukkha, creating the reaction of sukha, dukkha. The whole dream experience is nothing but experience of the mind. That's what it is. Dushyatvenaiva tada avasthanat. So mind at that time obtains as a dushya, as something that is experienced in the form of the various vasanas, the objects, so of which the form is taken by the vasanas, or form is because of vasanas. Form is of the mind. Vasana gives that form. So karma then arouses the vasana, the samskara. Samskara gives shape to the mind. That's the mind appears as the dream world. And this is where the Atma is manifest, therefore Atma is called Tejasa. Because the mind or dream is of the nature of Tejas or the light, and there Atma is manifest, therefore Atma is called Tejasa. Atmana upadyantara bhave sati bhashyasya So that time, what is it that illumines the dream world? Bhashyasya cha adityadi jyotisha tadani uparamat. The external jyoti, the luminous objects such as the sun and moon, they are absent in the dream. Because the sense organs are withdrawn, therefore no experience of sun and moon. So sun and moon, etc., all these luminaries are there to illumine the objects in the waking state. In the dream also, it looks like the objects are illumined as they are illumined in the waking state. Without the conventional sources of luminosity, such as sun and moon and fire. So who illumines them? The only Jyoti is the Atma, so Atma illumines the dream world. Therefore, Swayam Jyoti San, so Atma is there. That is where the dream experience, when analyzed, it brings very clear that the dream is illumined by the Jyoti or the light of Atma, the light of consciousness. And there is nothing to illumine Atma. There are no sun and moon and no upadhis there. Atma doesn't have any upadhi, doesn't have any luminous, the objects such as sun and moon. Still the light is there where Atma is self-shining. Atma always self-shines. But then the dream becomes a very appropriate experience to enable us to see how the Atma is Swayam Jyoti in the dream. Prakashita Sakshi Bhavati. Prakashita is Prakashaka. Atma becomes the Prakashaka, the Sakshi, the witness of the dream experience by illumining the experience by his own light. So he illumines the dream by his own light. He himself experiences the dream also, the dreamer, therefore he is called Taijasa. Atrayam Purusha Swam Jyotir Bhavati. That's what Sri Jagnavalkya says to Janaka. Here the Purusha becomes the self-effulgent, meaning the self-effulgence of Purusha, the Atma, is very clearly understood, recognized in the dream state. So dream state is presented as the experience where it is possible or easy for us to recognize how Atma is self-effulgent, even though Atma is self-effulgent in all the states. But in waking state, because there are other luminaries such as sun and moon, one may think that they are illumining the objects. But no, even they are also illumined by Atma. Atma alone is the light of illumination. Tatacha Shruti Drashte Punyam Ja Papam Chaiti. There Atma experiences the Punya Papa Ananvagadastena Bhavati. Experiencing Punya, Papa, etc. without being in any way connected or affected by them, and then walks away to deep sleep state. So Atma is really Sakshi. The idea is that Atma is Sakshi, unaffected by Sakshya. It is only of the nature of light of consciousness, the illuminator, unaffected by what is illumined. This is the dream state. Then Akashe cha Hrudik Prajna. Prajna is supposed to mean the space within the heart. So Sushuptimaha, next verse is verse 26. Vishaya Vasana Vapi Chodyante Naiva Karma Vihi Yada Buddhau Tadagneya Prajna Atma Hyananya Drika Yatra Supto na Kanjana Kamam Kamayate Kanchana Swapnam Pashyate. That's how the Sushuptam. And so Brihadaranyaka Upanishad as well as Mandukya Upanishad describe the deep sleep state. Yada Supta na Kanchana Kamam Kamayate, when the sleeper does not have any desire, sleeper does not have any dream, he is called sleeper. Because the ignorant man is sleeping, even though waking supposedly, he is still sleeping. So that sleeper is awake and experiences the gross objects called the waking state. That sleeper projects the subtle objects called the dream. When that sleeper does not project and dream, does not experience the gross objects, doesn't desire anything, that state is called the Tat Sushuptam. Sushupta Sthana, Ekibhuta, Prajna, Prajnanagana, etc. So, here, Yada Buddhau Antahkarane Vishayaha Sthulaha Vasanasa Sukshmaha. So, it's not waking state where the Sthulaha Vishayaha, the gross objects are shining or experience. It's not dream state where the Vasanas are experienced, because in dream what experience is the Vasanas which has taken form of different objects of the dream world. Sthulaha Swapna Dushyascha Karmavi Na Udyante. This karma that in fact arouses the gross objects and gross experience in the waking state. The karma alone is responsible for every experience, as Vedanta says, because what is that causes what is happening? Why should this happen? And says karma. So any experience that takes place in the waking state also is due to karma, which is responsible for the experience of waking state. Another karma is that which arouses the vasanas, and that's how the experience of the dream state takes place. And when none of them is there, so karma vihi Vishayaha Sthulaha Vasana Sukshmaha Na Udyante. When karma does not arouse the vasanas or the gross objects in waking, vasanas in the dream, then Tada Atma, so the poor Atma gets the designation depending on state of the mind anyway. Atma has no independence. So when the mind becomes waker, then the Atma becomes, mind is waking, then Atma is waker. Mind is dreaming, Atma becomes dreamer. Mind is sleeping, Atma is called a sleeper. So designation of Atma is determined by the costume that Atma is wearing at that time. Tada Atma Prajna. So yatra yada na swapnam na kanchana kamam kamayate na kanchana swapnam pashyati. Kama is the waking state, swapna is the dream state. So when none of them is there, Atma Prajnyo Gneyaha, then Atma is said to be Prajna or to be known as Prajna. Tat Sanyaka. Atma gains Sanya, or the designation of Prajna. In waking, Atma gets Sanya, designation of Vishwa. In the dream, the Atma gets Sanya, designation of Tejasa. In deep sleep, gains its Sanya, designation of Prajna. The reasons are explained. Vishwa, because the Atma has full expression of the personality in the waking state. Tejasa, because Atma is obtaining the mind which is of the nature of light. And Prajna explains here, in deep sleep, Prajna Atishayat Tada Prajna iti. So Prajna Atishayavan is called Prajna. Who possesses exceedingly well wisdom is called Prajna. So Prajna means wisdom. One who possesses the wisdom in excellent manner is called Prajna. Iti Vyutpattim Abhipraya. So everybody gives their own Vyutpatti anyway, so here also. But this one Bhashyaka also says there that one who is omniscient is called Prajna. He is all knowing. Vishinasti, therefore, Yada Buddha Tada Prajna Atma hi Ananyadruk. He said Ananyadruk. Ananyadruk. Anyadruk na bhavati iti Ananyadruk. So Anyad Atma is the Vishayam Vasana na pashyati, na dushyati, na pashyati. So Atma does not see anything other than itself. Vishayam does not see the Vishaya, does not see the vasana. All that sees is himself in the deep sleep state. And therefore, he is aparichinna. That means this prajna is, the wisdom is not limited to vishayas. Wisdom is not confined to the vasanas. Then there is no limiting factor, no confining factor in deep sleep state, and therefore the wisdom is unconfined, aparichinna. So aparichinna prajna. You can say in the deep sleep state, Atma is a knower of the limitless, or his wisdom has no boundaries, boundless. His wisdom has no boundaries, and therefore aparichinna prajna is called prajna. And this is very, this prajna is somehow designation obtained or explained in one way or the other. So prakrishna jnah prajna prajna eva prajna. So prakrishta jnah prajna prajna eva prajna. That's how it's explained usually. So Master says, how do you say that this is all-knowing? Because potentially in the deep sleep there is potentially a dream as well, waking states and unmanifest states. So by knowing the potential, he as well knows what is manifest. In that sense, he is explained as the all-knowing. That's how the three states are explained. Evam avasthatrayam tad avastham cha atmanam drashtu drishya bhavena vivichya. Thus vivichya, prusakritya, separating the two. Drashtu drishya bhavena. Atma drashta and anatma drishya. Avasthatrayam tad avastham cha atmanam. The avasthatraya, the waking, dream, deep sleep are drishya. And the vishva, tejasa, prajna, drashta. So drashtu drishya bhavena. Therefore, as the drashta and the drishya, these three states, and the atma obtaining the three states, vivichya. So that's the viveka or prasakkarana was done for us. Waking state, how atma, drashta and drishya, what are they? The dream state, the deep sleep state. In each case, the drashta, drishya, viveka was shown in previous verses. Idanim abhimani sahita avasthatra sakshitaya vishvadi trapeksha turiyam. So, now there is a drashta in each one, but now there is someone that eliminates the drashta also. Abhimani sahita avasthatra sakshitaya. So that abhimani in each avastha eliminates the corresponding avastha of the state. The abhimani identified the waking state, Vishwa, eliminates the or becomes drashta of the waking world. The abhimani or the actor in the dream state becomes the seer of the dream objects, and prajna becomes the experiencer of the deep sleep. But experience and experience both are eliminated by him. Abhimani sahita. Abhimani, one who possesses abhimanam, identification, is called abhimani. So Vishwa, Tejasa, Prajna, abhimani identify the respective states. So along with the subject and object. So far the subject-object division was explained. In the waking, subject is Vishwa, the object is the waking world, the gross objects. The dream, the subject is Tejasa, objects are the vasanas. Deep sleep, the subject are merged into what is called prajna. So there prajna is the subject, and the deep sleep, the avidya, is the object. But the one that eliminates both subject and object in all the three states, Vishvadi Trayapeksha Turiyam, he is called the fourth. Maya Sankhya Turiyam, that's just the Sankhya by Maya or Brahma. So Vishvadi Trayapeksha, with reference to the Vishwa, Tejasa, Prajna, Atma is called the fourth or Turiya. Turiya means Chaturtha. Pratyancham Atmanam nitya vignapti svam upalambhayati. So now, pratyanchama atma, the pratyekatma, the innermost swell, nitya vignapti svabhavam. Atma is always of the nature of vignapti, but the nitya vignapti svabhava. The Vishwa also is knower, but the knowing keeps changing. So the knower also changes, Vishwa also changes, the Teja also changes. Prajna also is there now and not there when you wake up. So even though they are knowers, they are all anitya jnata. So therefore they are impermanent knower or incidental knowers. In waking, incidental knower, dream incidental knower, deep sleep incidental knower. When the incident of that state of mind takes place, then he incidentally gains the designation of Vishwa, Prajna, Tejasa, Prajna. But Nitya Vignata, in all of these Anitya Jnata, there is a Nitya Jnata. So Nitya Vignati Svabhavam Upalambhayati helps us understand or see the Atma called Turiya, who is the permanent knower, or of the nature of the eternal knowledge. There the knower and knowledge are one. So the next verse is Mano buddhi indriyanam cha hyavastha karma choditaha चैतन्येनैव भास्यन्ते रविणेव घटादयः. मनो बुद्धि इंद्रियाणाम च हि अवस्थाः कर्मचोदिताः. सो इंद्रियाणाम अवस्था, मनसः अवस्था, बुद्धि अवस्था, Indriyanavastha. So Tikakara Indriyanavastha Jagaranam. Indriya here Thopalabdhi, therefore the state of Indriya sense organs is now, it represents the waking state where the sense organs are active. Only mind is active, so Manovastha Swapna. And when the Buddhi, so deep sleep is called Buddhi Avastha anyway, because Buddhi goes to sleep then, so Buddhi Avastha, Karana Avastha. In these three avasthas are indicated by the author in this manner. Mano buddhi indriyanam cha avasthaha. Karma choditaha. What makes the mind assume the different avastha of Bahish prajna, Antah prajna, Prajnana ghana? Three avasthas of the mind. Bahish prajna, the mind is reaching out to gross objects by karma. Antah prajna, the mind only experiences what is inside, that is the alagi by karma. Prajnana ghana, the mind becomes a mass of consciousness, a mass of knowledge, you can say, again due to karma. So karma choditaha avastha. All these avasthas are those which are prompted by the karma. Chaitanyena bhasyante. All avasthas are bhasyante, illumined by Chaitanya, by consciousness. So you can call now consciousness, so Nitya Jnata, Nitya Sakshi, Nitya Avabhasaka, Nitya Prakashaka. Because Vishwa also is Prakashaka or Sakshi of the waking state, but not Nitya Sakshi. So Tejas also is Sakshi. Prajna also is Sakshi of those respective states. But then what enables them to witness is the real consciousness which is essential nature. You can say that in presence of consciousness, in fact, the buddhi becomes the drashta or the subject or the perceiver of the waking objects, and that is called perceiver or Vishwa. So primary perceiving, the drashtutvam, the primary seerness or primary being subject belongs to buddhi. Buddhi can see only when the consciousness enlivens the buddhi. So buddhi enlivened by consciousness becomes the drashta. becomes the witness, becomes the subject. But buddhi keeps on changing, therefore the nature of the drashta also keeps on changing. In that, what is that connects one drashta with the other? Vehicle also is drashta, dreamer also is drashta, sleeper also is drashta. Each one is replaced by the other. Vehicle is replaced by the dreamer, dreamer by the sleeper. And what is that connects all the three? What's the very adhishthana and the substratum upon which these three, the play of the three goes on? And that is adhishthanam, that is chaitanyam, that's the consciousness. And that's how puratre krid yasya jiva tatasujadam puratre kridati. The Atma sports in all the three cities of waking, dream and deep sleep state. And therefore not identified with any city. One cannot be now in Ahmedabad, then in Baroda, then in Surat, because he must be different from the cities. So Atma must be different from the city of waking, the dream and deep sleep, connecting them all. One that is not negated by, even though the waker is negated or displaced by the dreamer, displaced by the sleeper, one whom the waker, dreamer, sleeper cannot displace, cannot negate, abhaditam tattvam. That is the consciousness. This is what is Vedanta. So this is what requires the pramanam of scripture. You can analyze the three states perhaps, but to recognize that in all the three states, in all this changing, there is a changeless thread, a changeless adhikaranam, changeless adhishthanam. Whereas these things come and go, and there is something that does not come, does not go, there is something that is subsisting, and that is I. That equation can only be given by Vedanta, by the scripture. So that is called Turiya, or the fourth. So Maya, Sankhya, Turiyam. If Vishwa, Prajna, Tejasa are considered as different actors, then different roles, he is the one that performs different roles. So that is how the avasthatraya sakshi, the witness of the three avasthas, is tentatively called the fourth. Only with reference counting, because an ignorant person thinks that on the stage the king is different, the beggar is different, the minister is different, and who is the actor? The fourth one. Because what it is, only one. But because of ignorance, they are taken to be different from each other. Therefore, tentatively is called the fourth. Not that is the fourth avastha or something like that, because there is no avastha of Atma, understand. Avasthas or states all belong to the mind. And Atma becomes designated because of the state of the mind, because identified of the mind, or because of the vesha, or the costume of the mind. But himself, like an actor, is devoid of all the costumes. So devoid of all the costumes of Vishwa, Tejasa, Prajna, Atma is called the Turiya, the fourth. Shantam, Shivam, Advaitam, Turiyam Manyante, so Atma, Savigneha is said to be fourth and is to be known as the self. That is how the avasthatraya viveka is here explained by this teacher here. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.